On microphone. I think there we go. Now you should be able to hear me a lot better there. All right, Lisa, good to see you. Jenny, good to see you. Evelyn, good to see you. Barbara, good to see you down in Florida. Dr. Tiny, good to see you again. All right, who else do we have? Chris Bolden, as always, great to see you. Jennifer, good to see you. All right, David, good to see you as well. Cynthia, good to see you. How's the weather out in Tennessee, Cynthia? Good to see you. All right, Will, good to see you. Isabel, good to see you. Rashawn, good to see you up in Canada. All right, we've got some new faces as well. So everyone that's joining us for the first time, good to see you. Great to have you here as well. How was everyone's weekend? Really quickly, let me know in the chat box. What'd you guys do for the weekend? How was your weekend? Cynthia, Kentucky. That's right, Kentucky, not Tennessee. All right. It was incredible weather-wise out here in North Carolina over the last couple of days. So it hit like 80 degrees yesterday. The day before that, it was about 80. I think today we'll probably see like the low 70s or so. I was just outside and it looked pretty good out there. No sun yet, but it's making its way out there. All right. So today we're going to talk about pivoting. We're going to talk about pivoting in life and business and when to know when to pivot, and when to know when not to pivot. Right. So I think sometimes we get to a point where we're working on a business, we're working on an idea, and maybe we may not be seeing any results from it, and we're just hoping and hoping and hoping, and we continue going and going and going and getting to where we want to be. And then by the same token, sometimes we don't give enough time, right? Sometimes we pivot too quickly, again, in business and in life. I saw a great quote on a friend of mine was sharing it's actually a great, it's pretty much a long quote that he shared on his Facebook page that I want to share with you guys. And I'll read that in just a bit. But first, I want to spotlight the one and only Ty Cohen over here. Good to see you, Caroline.
Don't spotlight today. No, I'm joking. Oh no, am I muted? Can you hear
No,
me?
we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, let me just change. Yeah, don't spotlight me when I've had 4 hours sleep. Joking.
Yeah,
No problem.
Right.
Okay, we got it.
So Caroline, how's your day going so far?
Yeah, great. How are you?
Doing great, doing great, doing great. So,
Do you have a good weekend?
yeah, I was just talking about like the weather here was fantastic. It was really nice out. So,
When does it start to change for you guys
what's
over
that?
there? I'm just putting my other shoes back on. When
Yeah.
does it? I've just got in from taking my mum. When does it change for you guys over there?
So now it being October, I mean, typically it'll change. It'll change about now or just a few weeks before. So we're actually
Okay.
having really good weather with it being 80 degrees over the last couple of days. And how about for you guys?
Wow.
What are you seeing as well? Chris says November 5th. Not sure what November 5th is. Chris, let us know. Right.
Cynthia's due for a freeze within a week, she said. So yeah. Yeah, well, the weather's been pretty mild here for this time of year, so it's great. But it's a little well, let's just say you need an umbrella when you're in the UK at the moment. I was talking to Christine actually, who's coming into a micro office, Christine from our community anyway. And
Christine
she
Curry.
was Christine Curry, and she was saying that she's just got this umbrella with Big Ben all over it, and you know, this amazing London umbrella. So she's going to come to London. She bought it in Paris,
Wow.
and it was meant to be of Paris. And she got it home and unwrapped this thing, and it was London. So that's the universe telling her she's got to come over and see us over here.
The
She's
signs,
in Paris.
the signs are all around us, right? It's up to us to pay attention
Always.
to the signs. So the signs are everywhere. It's up to
It's
us to
true.
pay attention. Do you have a
Yeah.
quote, Caroline?
Yeah, I do. And it's about pivoting, which is what we're going to talk about. I'm just going to open that up. And it's a short quote. And it's a Richard Branson quote in true Caroline style. Let me just get it because I sent it to you yesterday, which was, or the day before, which was very organized for us, wasn't it? Here we go. Okay, so yes, so Richard Branson, you don't learn to walk by following rules. You learn to walk. You learn. Okay, I'm going to start that again. You don't learn to walk by following rules. You learn by doing and by falling over. So I quite like that in terms of sort of pivoting and just keeping going. and then
Yeah.
changing course, and then reframing and all the things that we need to do, I guess, in life as well as in our businesses regularly. Um, like we had to do at the weekend with a few things when we were all working. You sort of pivot and decide you're going to do slightly different things, don't you, as you're doing them. So
Yeah.
there you go.
I think being a little bit too rigid can be good and it could be bad at times, right? So
Yeah,
we
yeah,
had to get it done challenge over the last couple of days. Actually, we started on Monday and then we ended on Saturday. And then tonight we have a Q&A call. So at 7 p.m., we have a Q&A call for anyone that wants to join us on the Q&A call. And during this Q&A call, it's going to be super short. It's going to be like 45 minutes if we can contain ourselves and keep it to 45 minutes. But we're just going to go in and talk about and allow you guys to ask your questions as relates to starting an online business. How do you deal with it? How do you deal with family members? How do you deal with the ups and downs? How do you deal with the unknown, right? The things that may be coming your way that you don't even know are around the corner. How do you deal with the success? Because I don't think anyone talks about dealing with the success. How do you deal with the failures of certain things? Willie and I, we both talked about during the challenge how we both had ideas for products and we put our heart and soul into it, and then they both like kind of flopped, right? And coincidentally, this was something that he had as a product many years ago. And then I created something many, many years ago, and I put my heart and soul into it. And I wasn't following a path, right? I
yeah,
was just going with what I thought and ended up losing a lot of time and a fair amount of money. And then it crashed and burned. So it was pretty good to
yeah,
hear. And I'm not saying this in that it was good to hear that Willie crashed and burned as well, but it was good to hear that I'm not the only one, because sometimes we have these
yeah.
mistakes, we make these mistakes and we think that we're the only one, right? Sometimes.
Yeah, and when people are putting their first book series out, often you put your heart and soul. I remember I was so excited
Mhm.
when my first book went out, and I didn't know how many books. I didn't know that at this stage, there were 48.5 million books on Amazon. I didn't do that bit of research,
Right.
and then just assumed that without really strategically driving traffic to the products, to the series, it's not just going to just like get found, no
Right.
matter how good my keywords and blurb and everything is, all my covers and all those other things. So you're I think often it's easy then at that point to get disheartened. So I always say to people, for your first series, it's great, but just sort of use this as an opportunity to build your audience.
Yeah.
And it could be like the second series or the third or the fourth or the fifth that then sort of really starts to move things, for your business, but it's all part of the whole process. So I mean, I remember that then I pivoted on that later and went back to these books. I
Yeah.
got the program and realized how that I needed to make some effort in marketing and advertising, and then they started to move, even though they had been published a while back. So I think it's weird because you're all excited when you start something, and
Yeah.
then you do the execution, which takes probably twice the amount of time if you're not used to doing it than you think.
Always
And
takes
then
twice the amount of time.
yeah, and then when you launch, you're like, come on, customers. So and then so that's the point at which it's so easy to get disheartened. That sort of ruins your frequency. I mean, it's normal, but then the key thing is then to pivot, get on with the next series, and then just use it as an opportunity to build your list. Some people do very well with the first series, but often it's a process, because of course you've got to build up some raving fans, which takes a little bit of time. So I think that's the thing, isn't it? Often when we're building things, if we could only see that, if we just sort of saw it as like a 2-year plan,
Mhm.
and then didn't take stock, I think we'd all have more of a party when we're building our businesses. But as humans, we take stock, don't we? Um, and then sometimes that can sort of slow us down a little bit, and then we pick ourselves up and pivot and keep going. But that was a big learning curve for me in business, because I just assumed that these are great books, of course everyone's going to want to get going to want to get them. So then by effort and attention, then it all starts to build and take off. It just takes time. you know,
It
with any
does.
business.
And that is it. That is the show in a nutshell, folks. So she just gave you everything,
See
right?
what I said.
It's basically, look, as you said, sometimes we get so attached to the things that we're putting out there, rightfully so, because these are our babies, these are our creations, right? And I talk about this one course. This is when I was in the music industry and selling music industry courses. And I had this one idea, but I knew was it. I mean, Caroline, I knew that everyone on the planet wanted this. Whether you liked music, hated music, was a musician, was not a musician, singer, songwriter, and I was dead wrong, right? So what happens is we could either get jaded by the things that don't work out well for us, and we could say, you know what, I knew that this wasn't it, right? Or we could say, I knew that I wasn't good enough, because sometimes we'll have those feelings as well. But it's the art of continuously going, pushing forward, and then even if it doesn't work out the first time, you still say, okay, I'm going to stick with this. But the question is, how long do you stick with things? Right? Like at one point, what point do you give up? Because people ask me this a lot, and I'm sure
That's
they
a
ask
good
as
question,
well,
isn't it?
right? It's like,
Yeah.
how long? And I'm so damn stubborn that I am the wrong person to ask, because I will stick with things longer than maybe I should, including people, things and people, right? So
Yeah.
I think when things and people go hand in hand, sometimes we have to. This whole entire conversation doesn't just relate to business; it relates to people as well. It relates to ideas. It relates to just all aspects of life. It could be your eating habits. It could be your habits around money. At what point do you pivot when it starts to come to your habits around money? I've had this thought, this way of believing and thinking around money or around whatever for 5 years, and it's not doing any good for me.
Mm-hmm.
Should I switch it up? Right? I want to read something that I saw on a friend's Facebook page that says, he says people here. He's referring to people, but I'm going to add things as well. So when I say things, just think of ideas, think of uh, the personality that we may have been attached to. So it says people and things come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Recognize which is which and act accordingly. So now I'm going to read the entire thing, right? It says people and things come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. When you figure out which is which, you know exactly what to do. When someone or something is in your life for a reason, it is usually to meet a need you have expressed outwardly or inwardly. They have come to assist you through a difficulty or to provide you with guidance and support to aid you physically, emotionally, or even spiritually. They may seem like a godsend to you, and they are. They are there for a reason you need them to be. Then, without any wrongdoing on your part or at an inconvenient time, this person or thing will say or do something to bring the relationship to an end. Sometimes they die. Sometimes they just walk away. Sometimes they act up or out and force you to take a stand, right? We've all had those people who we're like, okay, this is it, no longer in my life, or things. What we must realize is that our need has been met and our dreams fulfilled. Their work is done. The prayer you sent up has been answered, and it is now time to move on. When people come into your life for a season, it's because your turn has come to share, grow, or learn. They may bring you an experience of peace or make you laugh. They may teach you something you have never done before. They usually give you an unbelievable amount of joy. Believe it, it is real, but only for a season. And like spring turns to summer and summer to fall, the season eventually ends. Lifetime relationships with things or people teach you a lifetime of lessons. Those things you must build upon in order to have a solid emotional foundation. Your job is to accept the lesson, love the person, the people, the thing anyway, and put what you have learned to use in other relationships and areas in your life. It is said that love is blind, but friendship is clairvoyant. Thank you for being part of my life. Reason, season, and a lifetime. And this is by Brian A. Drew Chalker. I'm actually going to share this because when I saw this morning, I thought, man, this is so like on point with the topic that we'll be talking about. So
Yeah,
again, this speaks
it is.
specifically to people, but I think also things, right? So
Yeah,
bam.
things like it when people sometimes decide to let a business go, to
Yeah,
move to another and close one door and another opens, that sort of pivot. And people, and sometimes, when relationship romantic relationships come to an end as well, if people can, if we all took that approach,
yeah.
we'd have sort of reduced suffering, wouldn't we, for ourselves and other people in the past. And it's a great philosophy. And I've seen the first part of the quote before,
Mhm.
but I haven't seen the rest of that piece before. So yeah, it'd be great if you could share that and we can copy and paste that over. I want to read that again.
Yeah, it's really
Really,
cool.
really powerful.
I'm gonna put it in the Google Doc, and you're 100% right, right? When it comes to any of this stuff, whether it's a relationship of any type, right? Any type, or whether it's in my case or Willie's case, when we put these products together and they didn't do well, there was no audience, no one wanted them. What do? We take it personally, right? We take it personally. A romantic relationship comes to end. We take it really personal. Like,
Yeah,
what did I do? And sometimes there are things that we've done. And then sometimes it's just the other person. And we're trying to hang on to someone that we really shouldn't be hanging on to, right? So
yeah.
the question is like, what ideas, what business models right now, what philosophies are you holding on to that you may not need to hold on to any longer? And I can't give you that answer as to how long you should hold on to something. Caroline can't give you that answer. No one else can give you that answer. Only you truly know it. And I think that you don't make a snap decision. You give it some time. You think about it. You think about it when you're alone. You think about it when you have the time to be creative and you make the right decision. Because there's so many product ideas that I would have given up on. Well, had I given up on, right, I would have lost out on being able to gain a lot of customers, make a lot of money. There's a lot of people in my life. Had I given up, and this is what I need to get better at because I am so quick to scissor people. You and I were having a conversation about that about a week ago, where someone came in and they kind of said, you know what, I screwed up. I made a mistake. And I'm like, look, I accept the apology, but I'm done. I'm never talk to that person again.
And I'm
Right,
like, oh well, I would. We're like going back and forth, aren't we?
right, we're
Yeah.
going back. And it's good to hear that. So when you said that you would, it was good to hear that because I'm like, shit.
I always think it's a good reflection of character when someone can actually come back and apologize.
Yes.
And what it doesn't mean that you want to continue having a relationship with them. I have this thing that I forgive, but I don't forget, so I'm done. But in terms of like acknowledging people, because I always think that person's going to be really sad if they've got the courage to send me a very brave message. They did screw up. And then if I don't acknowledge it, I think, well, that would make me really sad if someone. So that's why I'd
Yeah.
accept the apology, bless them, but then I wouldn't necessarily want them back in my life or business or whatever, whatever the person. But then women and men, we're all a bit different. I'm very sensitive anyway, like that. So
Well, no, I know that I have a hard time saying no sometimes. So I have to put on this character. I got to
yeah.
go in. If you guys have Shark Tank, I know you have what is it called? Dungeons. What's the equivalent of it in the UK?
Oh yeah, dungeon thing.
It's
What's it called?
something,
I
right?
don't know. Yeah.
But on Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, what's one of his favorite sayings? You're dead to me, right? So he's like, you're dead to me after that. Dragon Den, you Nimish. So
Oh,
you
thanks, Nimish.
so when someone comes back into my life after doing something that maybe they should not have done, I know that if I accept them back in, there's probably
Yeah.
a chance of it being repeated, and I'm just gonna be so nice, right? So and that 3 second space, I have to just say no, and then just you're dead to me, and then and that
Yeah,
sounds
yeah, yeah.
harsh saying you're dead to
No,
me.
and it's the way that people deal with different things, isn't it? Because then, if you do go back, you do encourage that dialogue. It's just that's what I do. But then I'm a little bit of I'm a bit of a softie. But then all of a sudden, if someone pushes me too far, flip, and then I'm done. So
That's the side they don't want to see. That's the
that's
side,
a, that's
right?
that's not a pretty sight at all. But I think you know often what has helped me with sort of pivoting is
Mhm.
actually to have some sort of case study. And when I was doing all my books and everything, I had a like when I did a new pen name and I was in the fast pass and it all went really quickly, really well, really quickly. But then there was, publishing before that,
Right.
as I explain publicly all the time about my children's books and then what happened with the adult fiction. But then what happened was it then sort of dipped down, stayed the same, got stuck like you did
Mhm.
for a while at a particular level, which was a great level, but it was became, how do I move the needle? And these different things. And it helped me to have a case study of someone I knew of who had um and I've explained this example before, and it's an anonymous person, they're not around us here or anything like that. And they'd literally released a book a week for 12 months with a massive email list at
Yeah.
that time. And we're sort of getting a turnover of like 1,000. Now that sounds great, but that wasn't profit. So that's the revenue turnover, we say. So that's the revenue. And it would have been so easy. I mean, there's a lot of money spent by that stage if you're outsourcing and writing, and also a lot of time and effort. But they knew the model would work. So they just did another series and then they literally took off so big time, tens of thousands every month. Second pen name, similar thing. But there's a process. So they know there's a process.
Mhm.
So we just keep doing the thing that we're doing. 6 months down the line, that took off. So it's that point at which, when you get to a point where, and you might need to pivot along the way. Okay, let's try some long books, let's try some short books, or let's try a different product. If you're doing micro offers, or, let's do something different. And I love that phrase that we always share, that your mentor told you, that either do things differently or do different things. I'm always,
Yes.
yeah, oh yes, Stephen. I'm always going and talking to myself with that line, because that really helps in my personal life and in
Yeah.
my business. What do I need to do differently? And often it's just a shift. But when and you've got that case study,
Yeah.
then if you can just believe that that case study is relevant for you as well, not say, oh yeah, but it's all right, that person's got more funds, or that person's got
Yeah.
this privilege, like with me, all these people have
Smarter.
got partners at home helping them. I'm
Yeah.
on my own, victim. I've had some time being like that, believe me.
Mhm.
And so if you can just sort of just stay with the case study, if you like, whatever that looks like, and there's loads of case studies in our community,
Yep.
um, in all the community, in all the groups, then you think, well, this would be insane and crazy for this not to work. I mean, it's just sort of not possible if I've got everything right. The product's quality, a quality product, the way it looks good,
Mhm.
the copy is good, or the blurb if it's on Amazon, the content's good. So I'm doing everything in terms of the marketing piece and everything else. So how could that go wrong when it hasn't for? And then if people didn't believe, people in the community just look on Amazon and see the
Yeah.
pen names, forget the biggies.
Yeah.
Um, but because we don't know how long they've taken to build their businesses, the pen names that are doing really well, some of those will be in our community, some won't. Lots of people on there doing really well, and that helped me to get through times when I just needed to push myself, or do some testing and pivot. I pivot all the time in my business.
Wow.
We're literally pivoting all the time. That didn't work, we'll try that. That didn't work, we'll try it. And we do it when we're doing ads and everything, don't we? We're pivoting all the time
You
when we're
do it
testing.
all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
um, and then that helps me a little bit to pivot more in my personal life when things aren't right. Although it's always a little bit harder, isn't it, when the emotions are involved? But
I was just
so
thinking that as you were saying, I was like, for some reason, when it comes to personal stuff, it's a little bit harder, right? Is it the
yeah.
same for you guys? Is it a little bit more challenging when it comes to personal stuff versus business to pivot, or is it the opposite? because we're always, you know, what we, as you were talking, so many Jim Rohn quotes came to my mind. The quote of, if you've done it once, you could do it again, right? When you were talking about the book series, if you publish a series and you're successful with it, you now go back and you follow the same process and you increase the chances that you're going to have this level of success, right? Whether it's a micro office business, if you've done some, that's why we have so many programs, because we were able to get the first couple of programs right, or maybe we flopped down one or two of them, but we were able to get some of them right. And I was just like, just duplicate the process from the
Yeah.
funnels to uh, the layout of the funnels to everything else, right? The approach when it comes to acquiring customers and everything else. So, and then there was another Jim Rohn quote that you were talking about modeling. So modeling people who have pen names, whether they're in the community or not in the community, and just kind of seeing that there's this level of success out there. It's the Roger Bannister moment, right? Where Roger Bannister became the first person to run a mile in under 4 minutes or so. And now, before you know it, you've got a ton of people, including teenagers and senior citizens, that are doing it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I see that it's possible for this person, which makes it now possible for me. So that Jim Rohn quote that I'm reminded of here says, he's like, if you see someone who's a millionaire, guy's a millionaire, maybe it's his walk, maybe he's got this funny walk, right? Model the funny walk that he's got, model whatever it is that he's doing, and you increase your chances of being here.
Yeah, and that was really great because there was one event, I can't remember if it was a challenge last time, not this time, where you played lots of Jim Rohn at the
Yeah.
end of each of the challenges. And I used to sit there like this, like making notes, even though I've listened and watched and read a lot of Jim Rohn, because Jim Rohn's big in network marketing, you know, in all entrepreneurial space and in the entrepreneurial space. So he's so good. He was so good. And one of the things that he talks a lot about is this whole, I know we all know about believing it before you can see it. So if you want to be a millionaire, then feel like one.
Mhm.
And we know all, we talk a lot about all of that side of things, but it's sort of like acting like one, like really acting in your everyday 3D reality like one, in terms of the way that you dress. I'm not talking about going off and buying designer gear when
Mhm.
you know, when you haven't got the money, or buying something that you haven't got the money for, and just being, it's all show on social media and it's all a load of bull crap, you know. I'm not talking about that.
Taking fake pictures in front of the jet.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Going
that
back
you've
home and
just that
photoshopping
you've
it
just asked
on
somebody to,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah. It's like a woman I saw, there was a funny sketch I saw on social media recently, and there's this woman that's like running like this, and she's like this really, really, you know, top
Yeah.
half, running, eating, stopped and had some lettuce, you know, and then she switched off the camera, sat on the bed, pulled off her jeans that were really tight, and ate a burger. Because that was the reality, you know.
Reality.
She wasn't, it was just a big show. And then she was, you know, so it's that sort of thing. We don't need to do any of that, because we just sort of go down a spiral when we do that, don't we? But the actual sort of talking in that way, and you know, making yourself look, if millionaires look good, then making yourself look good with what you've got, and you can do that very cheaply, you know, just sort of, do you know what I mean? Because I often used to, when I started, I used to sit in bed and work.
Mhm.
I'd be like, this all day, right? So it's sort of like becoming the millionaire. What would a millionaire do? And then often it's around, I think the biggest challenge, it's not about the physical pivoting and doing the action, because
Yeah.
we all know what we need to do and we've got people we can model inside the community and out. But I think it's that sort of acknowledgement all the time. Okay, so the money's not there yet. I've been doing this thing for X amount of time. So I've got all the action in place. I'm doing all the right things.
Mhm.
So it must be something to do with my beliefs and my ideas and just the way that I'm thinking. That's the work, you know.
That is.
Um, that's the work. That's where I need to pivot. I need to pivot and change. I need not who I am, but change my feelings and thought, you know, my feelings and thoughts, things that I'm saying to myself, how I'm reacting to people.
The
That's a
emotions
big one for
behind
me.
it.
The emotions, yeah.
For me,
Um,
that was it. The biggest, the
that's been
emotion.
big. Yeah.
like once I learned to, because I'll be honest with you, starting out, I would hear the pretend, right? What was the saying? Act as if. And it was challenging for me to act as if when my bank account was not only at zero, but it was past zero. I was getting NSFs, which is insufficient fund notices. And then I would get, this $35 fee on top of that. And I was put on check systems. Does anyone know what check systems is? Put it into the chat box if you know what checks it. Just put me if you know what that is. I don't even know if check systems is around. This is 20 years ago or so, right? So check systems was when you bounce too many checks, or when you use your debit card too many times, and it was like I would go in to the store to buy toilet tissue that was $3.99, and because you didn't have you had all of these other things that were coming out of your bank account, and then you get to a negative, that $3.99 4-pack of toilet tissue now gets a fee attached to it, which is an NSF fee, which was $35, I think, at the time, or 25 or something like that. This is going back like almost 20 years. And so now you paid $3.99 plus $35 for the damn 4-pack of toilet tissue.
Yeah.
Then you repeat that
It's like
over.
that here.
It was the hardest. It seemed like it was the most challenging rut for me to get out of. So when you are behind on your mortgage and you're about to lose your home and you've got, this bill and your credit score is at a freaking four something, all of these things that I was suffering from at that time, it
Yeah.
was the most challenging thing to act as if.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, well, I'm a millionaire. And then I would get my bank statement, and then the bank statement says, hell no, you're not a millionaire. Right. Or all of these other things that would pop up, not being able to go out for dinner, or not being, just all of the little things. I had a car repossessed. And it was just this period where you're just stuck in this thing. And the
It's
thing that kind
horrible.
of changed for me
Mm.
was less of a pretending and then more of a just getting into my head, being alone, going for walks, and understanding the emotion that I put behind things. Because I was
Hmm.
putting all of this emotion behind all of the things that I didn't want. Right? You look at your negative bank account, you're like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And right? There's all of the emotion that goes behind that. And it is, I don't know about for other people or if anyone else here has ever been in that position,
Yes.
right? You got children, and my daughter Maya was at that time, she's 25 now, so she's about 4 or 5 years, about maybe about 4 years old, and trying to figure out like how am I going to take care of her, and this is before we had all the other three. So it's like you got all of these
And you
swirling.
were a single dad then, weren't you, at that time?
Me and Mel had just gotten together.
Mm.
So because we met when our two oldest children were both 2 years old.
Hmm.
Right. So I was a single dad up until Maya was two. But there, I mean, cars breaking down and needing an alternator, which was a $200 job. And then you get the alternator fixed, and then you need a starter, which is like a $300 job. And then your brakes to go out, which is like 100. And these $200, $300 issues were major crises. They might as well have costed $10,000.
That's the thing. Yeah. And I've been there, and it's really uncomfortable. And it feels like hundreds of thousands of dollars, doesn't it? When it's like that, even if it
Impossible.
isn't. Yeah. And so how did you, apart from the obvious, like you're doing the work and you've got your business is going, etc., how did you go from there to there emotionally? And then was that the reason why everything changed, apart from the obvious action that we need to take?
I'll be honest with you. It started with what I've got on the shirt.
Yeah.
People are
Out
like,
of victim mode, because at that point when everything's going wrong,
it's everybody else's
it
fault.
feels like, well, even not necessarily blaming everyone else, but it just feels like life's just really got it in for you, like something weird is going on, one
Mhm.
thing after another, and you see it, don't you, and it spirals for people. And sometimes, and I bet you we've all been through something like this in some area, and then sometimes you're like, okay, I'm going
Mhm.
to let this ride itself out. It's just momentum. And how can I, because you can't pivot just from there, can you,
No,
to
at that
a
point you
million in the
can't.
bank, So
Right.
how can I just, and for me, and I've been there a lot, and it's for me, it was just, okay, let's soothe myself to start feeling good
Hmm.
about some of this. And then, there's different processes. There's actually, if anyone is in a situation where there's just like more going out than it's coming in, because I think we all have periods like that. And particularly when you're building your business, because a lot of the time when you're building your business, you are building it at a loss for a while.
Yeah.
It's not years, but it is, when you start, because with any business you invest in, don't you, before you get your customers. Some people have got reserves and some people haven't. I didn't.
I'm having, yeah.
Um, but I think there's a really good process actually for this, and it flipping well works.
What's
I
say
just
that again?
realised we're live.
I missed that part. Flipping what?
Flipping help. We say it over here. It's not a
Right.
swear word. Well, it's not great, but I just realised we were live. Then I just saw the red live. There's a really good process that I used. I had to use this back in February again. When everything was happening there, the financials. And it's in, what is it in? It's an Abraham Hicks exercise,
Mhm.
and if people aren't into that sort of thinking, it's still really good to do it. It's very practical, and it's if you Google, or not Google, look on YouTube, and it's something like debt elimination process. It's called Abraham Hicks debt elimination process, and this could be just for if you just want more abundance and you haven't got debts.
Yeah.
But you could do this for anything. You could do this for anything in your life, business pieces, relationships, whatever.
Mhm.
And it's where you put all your outgoings in columns. And I was doing this like 4 pages worth, you know, and your don't worry too much about don't put your income in there at the moment. Just sort of write down that you've paid that mortgage payment, car payment, whatever. You start with the biggest thing first, and you pay that, and then you write a statement that's something like, I always fulfill my debtors, whatever you want to I always fulfill my commitments
Yeah.
and pay everything on time. And it could be that you can't pay these 10 things, but then the smallest payments, whatever that is, gym membership, or I don't know, Amazon, your Kindle Unlimited subscription, your Prime subscription, your smallest one, $10, whatever, you double it. You double that every month. I mean, you don't want to pay Amazon twice, but maybe put the money somewhere so you feel like you're paying them twice. And that process is incredibly effective, because then all of a sudden you feel good because you've paid off these, you've
Yeah.
paid your mortgage, you've paid your rent, you've paid all these different things. And then you've one time and you say, even some of the things I'm able to pay twice. And it's very, very powerful. And in time, it's not that long, things start to happen if you really believe it and embrace it. But just she's got so many different videos, very short videos on this. And when you start to embrace this in time, what happens? Because all of a sudden you just feel relief, and it's when you get relief, it starts to flow again.
Less
Um,
pressure.
yeah, the pressure's off. You feel safe, because often you don't, do you, when you're going through something big? Um, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, you get a refund, a $30 refund from your gas bill or whatever, or utilities or whatever, and then things start to change, and all of a sudden you release a product series or a product on out there, and then it starts to take off, and things then start to move. You don't go from there to there in a couple of days. It's a process. It might take months, but it does start to move, and that really worked for me. It's a really lovely process for anyone that likes that sort of thing. Obviously, it's going to be different for everyone, but yeah, the universal bank account, as Megan said.
Yeah, mate. I had something similar. So you asking like what were some of the things that changed for me? So I started studying Dave Ramsey at the time. I started
Yeah,
studying Dave Ramsey. I started studying. There's another gentleman whose book I read. Barhead guy, really rough looking guy. Looks like a Harley Davidson. Looks like he could be in a motorcycle gang. I know that sounds judgmental, but I'm trying to give you guys bald-headed guy. He used to wear the earrings, but he was similar to Dave Ramsey at the time. Oh man, he had two books, and I would plow through those books over and over and over again. And Dave Ramsey had this debt elimination system that he talked about as well. And what I started doing is I would go with the smallest debt and I would pay it off, like the
Yeah.
smallest. Like I had dumb things at that time on my credit report, a cell phone bill, right? Utility bills. I mean, I had like an $800 water bill at the time, which seemed like it was taking forever to pay off. So I would go in, I would pay off the smallest thing and just chunk them, smallest thing, small. And it just became fun to
Yeah.
see that I can just like knock these things out. And I'm going with the $11 thing. And then it would be like, the $40 thing, then the 90, then the 400. So going
There
up,
starts to
up,
be a
up,
game.
it started to become a
Yeah.
game. And I'll tell you who else had a big influence on the way I looked at money. Of course, my mom, because my mom would say all of these incredible things that now I look back in hindsight, I'm like, shit, if only I listened. Um,
Yeah.
but I didn't. As you know, in your 20s and stuff, you're not listening, right? So, but the other thing was T. Harv Eker. So I
Yeah.
started to listen to T. Harv Eker, and he
I'm
talked
doing that
about
now.
like you have these you get 5 physical jars, and when you get money, you say, okay, well, this is my, and I forget what the system is, but I was just so in tune with this thing. It's like, this is my jar for, I'm going to put X percentage into paying my bills. It was X percentage into saving and investing, X percentage into charity and tithing, X percentage into money that you just have to just blow. Like you just have to, and I had never heard of that concept before. Like you have to have this percentage where you just got to go out and do something with it, right? So that was pivoting. Yes, T. Harv Eker. T.
Yeah.
Harv Eker.
Is that in Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, or is it in a different book?
That was in that book,
Process.
Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. I had a bunch
Yeah.
of audios from T. Harv Eker. I just started buying everything that I could by these individuals that just started to make sense to me. And I
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
put it on a CD. I would burn it on everything, and I would just drive around and listen to as I'm dropping the kids off or going
Yeah.
to a doctor's appointment. I would listen to them 24/7 and totally submerge myself into it. And that's when finances became a game for me.
Yeah.
It became fun, and it became something that you get a lot better at.
Yeah. Because
So
if you don't do this, whatever your process is going to be in terms of changing the ideas around this
yeah,
topic, whatever the topic is, and your beliefs around it, when you get it all, it'll go away.
it'll go away. And it
So
was
you
like
have to do this, don't you?
you have to do it. Like you have to
Yeah.
change. It was instead of like I don't make enough money, right? Damn, I don't make enough money for all these freaking bills. It's like, why don't I make enough money for all of these bills? Like why don't I make enough money?
Why not me?
When you
Yeah.
ask a better question, you get better answers, right? So it was
Yeah.
started asking myself better questions and kind of really looking at things, and instead of saying, well, it's the man's fault, it's the fault that I don't have a college degree, I don't have my parents aren't both together, or whatever reasons it could have been, right? And
Yeah.
saying, look, other people are doing this. If
Yeah.
other people are doing this, look, I see some of these people that are doing it. This person, this lady or this guy is no smarter than me. What do they have? And then the thing is, you find out that they have a belief. Goes back to what you were saying, right? They
Yeah.
have this belief. Whether Les Brown says, sometimes you have to not realize that it can't happen. Because if you are putting so much thought into the fact as to why it can't happen, then you're going to have a hard time for it to having it happen, right? So sometimes you have to just really believe that it can't happen, and the belief happens. Look, we're going to have these issues, whether it's finances, whether it's relationships, whether it's our business, whether it's our health. I've been really open about the health issue that I've been having lately. I've got this damn hydroxyurea induced ulcer, which is a result of having sickle cell anemia. And I was talking to my aunt Bessie a couple of days ago, and she was telling me my older sister Gwen, who also died from sickle cell anemia, not also died from, who died from sickle cell anemia. She said she would get a ton of ulcers, She said your
Oh,
sister used to have, and she would just suffer, right? And so I had to pivot in the way, but I was thinking because even with this damn thing, I
yeah,
started to become like, no one cares.
yeah,
You're all on your own.
yeah. You do, and because you're in so much pain.
It's
It's
right, and
and
unable
it's
to
so
sleep.
easy, even when you've got people around you that love you, you sometimes you just feel, and this is the thing for me, and I felt like this a lot, that you think I felt like that even at the weekend, just being so busy. No one cares about me. No one's like coming in with food,
Right.
And I got all upset with the kids. Um, and they're like,
But
well,
we're human. It happens,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So look, you're
Um,
a robot.
and they are great. They do look after me, but really, like, whoa, got a PP going on here. And it was like that. And when you're tired if you're not sleeping because you're in pain. Like you're the good vibes sort of dwindle a little bit, don't they? But it's so normal to feel like that, even when you've got loads of lovely people around you who do love
Even when
you.
you do.
That all of a sudden you feel very isolated, and then it's back to the t-shirt.
100. That's why I
Come
have this
on,
t-shirt on now. Like, to be honest
yeah,
with you, right? Because I'm
yeah,
thinking like I haven't slept in freaking weeks because you're in so much pain that you
yeah,
sleep, even though you take, stuff to try to sleep, right? So I'm going in for a blood transfusion today, and I'm going to be in there for about 5 hours because
yeah.
sickle cell is such a very comedic disease, and I say that in a way where it'll give you some things, and you're like, God, I know I can handle some things. I just wish
But
you didn't have
really,
to.
yeah. Why do you always do it when I'm presenting?
Right. I just wish you
Just
didn't
before
have
an
to
event
pay.
or after an event.
So what happens now with the ulcer, which comes in as a result of having sickle cell, or it can come in as a result of the medications that you take to present and lessen the crisis, right? You get these damn things, and now what happens is it now affects one thing affects the other. So now your white blood cells start to increase, your red blood cells start to decrease, your hemoglobin starts to decrease. So my hematologist is seeing my hemoglobin level get super low. So she's
Yeah.
like, we need to get you a blood transfusion ASAP, or else you're going to be in a hospital for the next couple of weeks, and we don't want to happen. So
You
now
went yesterday, didn't you, to prep it for
I went
today?
yesterday for
Yeah,
screening and everything, right? So I take my
yeah,
daughter summer with me. I take my granddaughter with me because I want them to see that life is always rosy. They just
yeah,
see good stuff,
yeah,
right? You have to. There has to be some balance. But
yeah.
even with that, like you going back to what you said, I had a gazillion people pouring out to me, people in this community, friends, relatives. But you still get in those moments,
Yeah.
small slivers where you're like, oh, it's just me. You're like, F the wall, no one cares.
Yeah.
It's just me.
Oh gosh, yeah. I bet you we all have moments like that, and in whatever things are going on. I think that's a great exercise to take the girls with you as well, because you're teaching them that, but you're also teaching them when things aren't rosy
Yep.
that you can deal with them and still do your normal stuff.
Here's how you
You know,
react. Here's how
yeah,
you pivot. So I wanted to bring that up. Thank you for reminding me because I wanted to. You have to pivot, right? There's some things you pivot on. So
yeah,
with me, I pivot on the amount of rest that I get. And for
yeah,
me, I I would rather die sometimes than take a nap. And I don't really mean that, but you
yeah.
know, I, you're probably you're talking about going for 4 and 5 hours, right? And it's it's all relative. Like everyone's going to be different, but you have to pivot when you get into these situations, good or bad, right? When things are going really good, you pivot to let that become your new normal before you self-sabotage yourself, because you'll see people who do really well and then they'll do something to self-sabotage themselves because that does not feel normal to them. But
Yeah.
the seeing this abundance of whatever it might be, love or money or relationships,
Very true.
at the same time, when you have these down moments, when you're in a valley, because every single one of us will either coming out of a valley moment, we're in a valley moment, or we're heading towards a valley moment. You pivot the way that you're thinking. Because if not, you can start to say, okay, well, why me? And then it's easy to become Robin Williams,
Yes.
guy that was loved to death, right? Extremely famous, had all of a fame, had the popularity, had everything that people would like, right? And then he still felt like
He's alone.
I'm not enough or I'm
I'm
alone,
not good
right? So
enough.
you have to be able
Yeah.
to recognize that stuff. And we just saw the actor from Friends this past
Oh,
weekend
yeah. Wow.
pass away, and they don't know
So
what the truth
they don't know the truth yet. No.
drowned in his jacuzzi.
Yeah.
But he also had an addiction problem, right? Here's someone who's super famous, and I don't know what the reason behind the addiction was, because it's hard to say this is how someone would act if you've never been in their shoes, right? If you've never been super rich, you can't say here's how a rich person should act. Or if you've never been an addict, you can't say here's how an addict. If you've never been through sexual abuse, you should never say, hey, here's how someone else. And even if you have been through those, everyone's experiences are different.
Yeah.
But what we can do is we can kind of say, you know what, how have I been approaching this and how have I been thinking about it up until now? And how can I do things differently and do different things so that I can pivot? Right? We've been all over the place, Caroline. We talked about business, we talked about relationships, we talked about health, we talked about
I
uh
think it helps people though, because I bet you everyone here has got something they're pivoting with. And it's so intertwined because our businesses are our lives, aren't they? And then the personal's in there as well. It's all linked. And I think that I think the key thing, the learning out of today has been, that whatever it is that's going on for people, that they ultimately it's about, yeah, getting processes and case studies and all those sorts of things like we've said, but also saying, okay, this has happened and it's a reoccurring issue in my life, and being really honest with yourself. This is a reoccurring issue in my life, and it's not okay, my mum and dad's fault, da da da, whatever. And there's going to be a reason for it. Of course, there's a reason for it. Everyone's got the reason, but then it's okay. So what are my beliefs and ideas doing that's causing this self-sabotage and this sort of vibe to happen? And then, like you did, get some processes in place,
yeah,
start studying people that know about that topic and they've
yeah,
got experience. I always think it's really helpful when you know someone close, like you, for example, that's gone through. If it is finances or business that people are focusing on, then they've got you and knowing what you had to do to get to that level emotionally.
yeah.
Um, and it's all an inside job, isn't it?
It's
So
all that
I
job.
think that's helpful because I many people have different things going on. It's just life, isn't it?
Yeah,
And it's the art of pivoting properly that makes a difference between drowning in whatever it is or winning.
yeah. And
Uh,
it never stops lifing, right? If you
life,
like, life will never stop lifing, meaning life will continue. But it is all about, this is why it's so important to have a reason why, or multiple reasons why. Because when you get into those moments where your business is not going to work, your idea is not going to work, the relationship's not going to work, your health is not, whatever it might be, right? If you have those reasons why, you might go through this valley for a period of time, but your reason why is going to always bounce you back. Like it's going, if you allow it to, like it's
it
always
is.
going to bounce you back. Man, my kids need me. Or, your reason why could be yourself. Are you serious? Like, who the hell? Like, I'm not going through this right now. This is not me. What are you doing? Get your butt out. Talk to yourself. Sometimes you got to talk to yourself and you say, look, what are you doing, dude? This is not you. Are you
Yeah,
serious? And then you have to remember all of the other things that you've gone through and that you've beat, because you can't forget, like, every single person that's watching this is a badass in your own right. Like, there's some things that you have gone through, right? Things that you have thought, people that you have met, people that were not the best, whatever, situations that were not the best, and you're still here. And there's a lot of other people. My mom used to always say that. She used to be like, son, here I am 12, 13, 14 years old, and I'm in the hospital bed. And I'm like, well, why would God give a kid this thing? And I would doubt. And she'd be like, look, there are children that have it way worse than you. There's someone who has sickle cell and cancer. And when I would be like, whoa.
yeah.
what could I say after that? Right? So every single person that's watching this thing, pivot. And as far as your business, if you're thinking like, how long do I go? So here's the barometer for me. If I could sell one, and you guys have probably heard me say this before, but if I could sell one copy, then I know that the sky's the limit. I know that the sky's the limit. I might have to pivot in my marketing. I might have to pivot in the approach. I might have to give a couple away to listen to the audience. I might have to give 50 copies away, 500 copies away, 5,000 copies away, and ask for feedback. For those of you that are in the early versions of the revamp, who were KCF students, you bought the Kindle Castro program, and then when we came out with the revamp, do you remember that's what we did? Like, so everything that we do, that we share with you guys, are things that we actually do. So we gave the revamp to some of you guys who were Kindle Castro students. And what do we ask you for? Does anyone, is there anyone that's here? What did we ask? Put it into the chat box. Like, what did we ask you for? We just said, give us an honest testimonial.
Yeah.
Because you helped us to refine the course and make it even better. Right? That's it. Thank you, Nimish. So this stuff works in all areas of life, just pivoting, knowing when to pivot. This person is no good for me, right? I need to pivot. This product's no good for me. I need to pivot, right? What I'm reading, is it like, this is I got this book, right? The Challenge Secrets. I actually have like 4 copies of it. Because I wanted to give them to some friends. But I'm like, I'm not going to read this book now because it's not moved me in the direction that I need to go in. So I need to pivot. It looks great. I'm going to put it on the back burner until January or so. But I'm going to stay focused. So it's like staying focused and then knowing when to pivot, or pivoting and then knowing when to stay focused. So
I know. And also the contrast, whatever it is that people are pivoting from to whatever. The what I like about all this is the contrast is, it might not feel like it, but a good thing, not a bad thing, because that will be from contrast. And when things are not going well, that gives you clarity of what you want. I don't want to be like this anymore. I don't want to feel like this anymore. I've got to change. Or I don't want to be broke anymore, or I don't want to feel like a failure anymore. That's how I felt when I started the business. And then that connection, Marty and Josh always used to talk about this. I'm not going to go back to flip burgers.
yeah.
That's my why. You don't have to have dependents dependent on you, just not wanting, actually making a list of what you don't want anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Is going to be one of the most it sounds like a really negative thing to do, but it's very, very powerful. I don't want, enough's enough. I don't want this anymore. So this is what I want. And then just remembering that every single person, unless they've been born into money, every single person that's a great entrepreneur have got that backstory. I mean, Stephen Pierce always talks about being homeless, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You've talked about your story, and so many, and you think, well, how do you go from homeless to multimillionaire?
Yeah.
How does that process work? That has to be ultimate mastery of the mind, doesn't it?
It does, and that's what it is. It's the ultimate mastery of a mind. And look, you never get, a monk never truly becomes a full monk, right? They're always in the process, and it's that mastery of a mind, or at least getting there. And it is a daily thing. It's like Zig Ziglar used to say: you don't just take a shower or a bath once, I think you're good for life, right? So that's it. My I had my granddaughter. She was out in the pool the other day, and I had taken her out in the pool early in the morning, and it's like 10 o'clock. I'm like, Layla, we had started like at 9 o'clock, and it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock. I'm like, Layla, I gotta go in the house and I gotta go take a shower. She's like, Grandpa, you're always saying you have to take a shower. It was just the funniest thing ever. And I'm like, you don't just take a shower once, Layla. I had to have, how many times do you take? But it's true,
She's
right?
so funny, isn't she?
It was the
She fakes
funniest
when
thing.
she video calls you for an hour at a time or whatever. And
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah,
you've got to
yeah,
go. She's so good. She's so good. And she's so good for you right now to have someone, a
yes,
little one around you when you are going through this pain and
yeah,
healing and everything that you're doing at the moment. So she
absolutely.
just makes you can't, when you look at her, you just can't feel anything other than love, obviously, and she's just full of love, isn't she? I saw that video of her scooting around the house.
Yeah, right. So it's just, look, you don't have to be have been homeless, right? Or you don't have to have gone through something tragic in order to say, okay, you could really come from a great life, to be honest with you. And you could have a why where it's not like, came from this great life, so I don't have a reason as to why I can't do it. You could say, look, there's other people that are out there that are suffering and that may not have experienced the life that I have from day one. I want to give these people, the opportunity. And that becomes part of your story. That becomes part of your reason, right? Part of your why, part of your drive. Or you could say, I have had a good life. Like, my parents have been great. I was raised the right way, right? I've had, all of the basic needs that I need: food, water, shelter, love. Why not? Why am I not reaching my fullest potential? So you can look at it both ways. You could also go as the way that you just shared, Caroline, like, man, I grew up in this way, but I don't want my kids to grow up, right? Or I've been there before. I will never, ever in my life bounce a check again, ever, right? So you could say, I've been here, I've been on food stamps, never gonna do it again. Been on government assistance, never gonna happen again. Just make the decision. And then the universe, God, people, right? Yourself, thoughts, things, resources, they all start to conspire to say, this dude just made this choice. We got to help him, right?
Yeah.
We got to give him these things to help him to fulfill that choice. By the same token, when we're saying, oh my God, I'm probably going to get back on welfare again, or state assistance or whatever. Aladdin and his magic lamp says, this dude just made a choice. Let's help him to see that become reality. So you got to be very careful with the choices that you're making. And more importantly, with the choices, for me, at least for me, with the choices that you're putting emotion behind. And I'm saying for me, because everyone's going to be different. It may not be the emotion for you. For me, I know that when I get frustrated and I'm taking a walk, I have to really purposely manufacture the emotion and put the emotion behind the things I want. Trying to have a great marriage. One of the best things I learned from Tony Robbins by going to UPW, his live event, was building that emotion and then having but action behind it, right? I'm a money magnet. Money comes to me quickly and easy, boom, in all ways, right?
Yeah.
But you're manufacturing that emotion. When you're walking, right?
Yeah.
Amazing help. Amazing help. This is why I've been able to live to 51 with sickle cell anemia. By declaring, look, I go in and I tell my doctors, I was telling my doctor on two different occasions. My hematologist on Friday, I went to see her and I said, look, Dr. Elijah there, because she was telling me about the ulcer and how she doesn't see it often because it's a super rare thing, and the pain and everything else that comes along with it. And I'm like, look, I know that they said that this thing is supposed to take a year or two to heal. I'm going to beat the hell out of this. Watch me. And she starts to smile because she knows we've had a 17-year relationship. She knows when I say something, I mean it, right? When my wife came on here and she spoke, she says, Ty says something. Sometimes I don't even know how the hell he's going to do it, but he means it. You have to say things. You have to mean it. Not figure out. You don't have to even know how you're going to do it. I was telling my daughter some of this. You don't even have to know how you're going to do it. Because when you start to worry about the how too much, you just have to know it and figure it out. I went to a wound care specialist this is my second opinion. Because although I do trust the authority, I want to make sure that your word is true. So I'm going to go and then I got a third opinion that's coming up on Thursday because
I was going to say another one as well.
Right.
Good. It's good. Different ideas.
Yeah, I'm like, look, I'm going to be the oldest, most financially free, independent, helpful, good-looking individual on the planet with sickle cell anemia. And the doctor and the nurse start cracking up. And I'm like, I'm making light of this, but watch me.
Yeah.
So you have to declare these things sometimes and then work towards them. And then look, if it doesn't work out, so what? At least you've gotten a little bit further than had you not made those declarations. Would you agree? Like, would you think like if you say, look, I'm gonna make $1,000,000 and you get to 700,000, isn't that better than the 59,000 that you might have gotten to had you just drifted along without making a decision? So it is having we're 6 minutes after. So
Yeah. You've got to go as well, haven't
look,
you?
when I get around Caroline, boy, and you guys and Dr. Tiny and Barbara and Nancy and Michelle and Wendy and Betty
It's
Powell
just no stopping
and
us.
Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Before we go, I saw in the chat earlier, really early on, that I think I saw that Tracy Grace, our fabulous Tracy Grace here, is has hit 3,000 in her
Wow.
business, in her Kindle, and she's a great author and artist, you know. And I'm trying to find what she actually said, um, because she
Congrats.
had when I met her, she'd got a load of content that she was going to put on. I didn't coach her or anything. We just had a chat once and or a few times about her content, and she's been really going for it. And I'm pretty sure she said she's got a 3,000 month. If anyone can find where she said that, because it's a while ago, and I thought I must shout out to Tracy if she's still on the call, because she's phenomenal, and this is it for her now. You know, she's worked. Oh, I think she may have got. Oh no, she's here. I can see
Cheers
her.
to her.
Oh,
Okay.
you are here. Yeah. So congratulations for your success. That's amazing. And just shows you that when you've got the will and you take the action and you know you execute, but you keep going with it, then and she's moved pretty quickly with it from when I met her, even though I think she was getting the content ready before. But she's amazing. So congratulations, Tracy.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Congrats, Tracy. And look, you're an inspiration to a lot of other people because there's people that are looking at you and they don't think that they can get there right now. So the fact that you're there, this is another reason why we have to do some of these things is to inspire other people. Right. So when I'm going through my moments, I'm like, there's no way you can give up now. Like you haven't even you're talking about you're gonna positively impact 100 million people a year. You haven't even like you're nowhere near that. What the hell are you doing? Get up. Stop playing around. Right. So you talk to yourself and you continue to move forward. Look, guys, we have our Q&A session. So tonight we're gonna have at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have our Q&A session for anything as relates to building a digital business online. When it comes to the micro office process, when it comes to building out courses, when it comes to building out memberships, when it comes to building out coaching programs, whatever it is, whatever questions you guys have. So Willie, myself, Caroline, will you be there?
Yes, I'm going to be there. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern, isn't it? And
7 p.m.
yeah, and for those people that didn't come to the challenge who have got the link, are you going to pop it on Facebook?
Well, actually, yes. So I shared it on Facebook yesterday. I shared it in all of our groups last
Uh,
night. We're
great.
sending out
Oh, you
emails.
did. Yeah.
We sent an email out yesterday. We're sending out one today. And Cynthia, to answer your question, yes, anyone can be on this call. The more the merrier. So anyone. Even if you don't know what it is that you want to do right now, just come in and it's going to be a super short call, 45 minutes or so. I want to get back to a point. It's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern time. So Cynthia, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So I want to get back to a point where we're just having these one-off calls, random calls where we get to kind of share with you guys. So that's it. It's
Fabulous.
really a selfish, I'm doing this for a selfish reason because I get the energy when I'm talking to you guys. So that's it.
Fantastic. See you later, guys. Put your
All right, we'll see you.
takeaways from today in the groups.
Have a
See
good
many
one.
of you. Thanks. Have a
Bye,
great
guys. Stay
week.
well. Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.